It is Queen of Biohacking, Dr. Leiva, and I'm here with Clayton Thomas, the owner and founder of the Root Brands. How are you?
You know what? We're here at Biohackers World. It's a good time to be in Miami.
Yes.
No hurricanes.
Yes.
Lots of good energy. Lots of good times. So I get to hang out with the Queen of Biohacking.
Yes. I was supposed to have an interview with you twice before. I got Patrick, and then I got
Dylan and Ginger Keanu. So you got the pretty versions, and now you get me.
Yep,
So.
I led my way up to Clayton. So right when I met Patrick, I signed up for the Root Brands because he was serving coffee, and I just loved it.
And it's dope, right?
It's super dope.
Because when we look at the aspects of like the term biohacking, it's a term that should be applied to pretty much every aspect of life.
Yes.
And coffee is one of those things that is a ritual.
Yes.
Right? And it has been throughout history kind of that spiritual ritual of being with people and having community. But it's become a huge problem because of, you can look at different companies and how fast they've grown, that they've destroyed the environment for where a lot of coffee comes from. So people know now it's lived with mold and mycotoxins because of the environment. So it's a matter of our oldest son Duquesne is a huge coffee snob and loves coffee, and his goal has been to own a coffee shop and a bookstore.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I'm like, great, that's a hobby.
Yeah.
Right. Well, people are like, that's so great.
That's a good dad, right? He's like, how are you going to make money?
That's a hobby. So we looked at it and like, okay, if you want to do coffee, then we have to do coffee because it's got to be dope.
Yeah.
Right? And
gold standard.
It's, if you have the core principles, then you've got to do it right. And you can't find it elsewhere. You need to do it yourself. And when, with Dr. Ron, Christina's background being a nano-biotechnologist, it was a matter of taking some of the principles that she'd already created and applying that, to beans, just like we apply it to humans.
Yes.
And that journey ended up taking us to Cyprus in Istanbul, to find an award-winning
That was my next question.
roaster.
Yeah, I was like, where'd you find your beans?
Well, and that was the interesting part. We end up in North Cyprus, and we've got an award-winning master roaster that's won awards all over Europe. And so we sit down with him and I go over the process and blew him away with just going squirt, 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 putting a little solution on the coffee beans and immediately detoxifying the coffee beans.
Wow.
And he's like, well, what flavor profile do you want for coffee? And I stopped drinking coffee when I was 10. Well, I know people like more of the fruity notes. And he's like, then you want Guatemalan beans. He said, so we're gonna source from a specific region, the Huhu region in the mountains of Guatemala. So the beans are grown at over 1,600 meters, which is the ideal environment for those plants.
Yeah, is that a blue zone over there?
It is.
Yeah.
And he's like, I can source beans, get them picked, bagged here in 2 weeks. So you let me know what we want. I'll get the beans, we'll double wash them, roast them, and then we'll treat them. And initially, the first run we did got an 84 cup score, which means it's a specialty coffee.
Yeah.
And then as we went through the first year, we got our fair trade certification because it's an important part. The term organic is something that has been overused, and to the point that in 2019 they kind of slipped into language that the FDA changed the language to be organic certified.
Yeah, it's
because there's so much in the food industry that is not considered organic because of the use of pesticides and everything else.
Or if it's like 70% and they don't know if it's treated with
And what they changed the language that if anything is grown in its natural environment, regardless of what you put on it or what you put in it, then it's organic. It's like, well, that just lost all of its value.
Exactly.
But when you look at coffee, you need something that's fair trade, right? So the organic aspect, you can look at where the beans come from and how they're grown, but then from a process of working with the farmers and working in the environment, the fair trade certification is more valuable than an organic one.
Totally.
And getting that, so I think it was in February,
it's like with chocolate and diamonds.
Yes,
right?
same way. It's like you don't want blood diamonds.
No, I mean you're you're investing into an energy exchange with everything I do. And I tell people the clothes you wear, the food you eat, the coffee you drink. And that's why when I tried it, I could feel it. Yeah. Just like I've been at booths, I've tried a chocolate, and I've even said, you made this chocolate. And there's a woman that's so proud because she put every bit of her energy into it.
And it is that aspect of understanding the component of physical.
Yes.
But knowing that we are physical, we're psychological, we're spiritual, we're emotional, and every aspect of what we do pertains to that. So if we're looking at consumables, whether it's something as an additive, like a supplement, or something that I now live on, or if it's anything that you eat that's being grown, being prepared, being cooked, and we know this innately because of having moms, right? That your mom might not be a great chef, right, in preparing a meal, but because she cooks everything with love, that it's going to be amazing because of the energy, the intention, and the love that's put into it. That applies to supplementation in every aspect of it. So when you have someone that is using, like what Christina does when she's creating all of our formulas, she's using harmonics, she's actually singing, she's putting love, intention, she's got a specific design of what she wants everything to do, and all of that, the energetics, the polarization, the magnetism that's being used in the creation of the formula and then the process to make something has as much or a greater impact than the ingredient itself.
True.
And it's the part that is never going to be on a label. Yeah. And it's the part that most people from a consumer standpoint are never going to know or understand unless they get to have a conversation of like, why is this different? I look at these ingredients, I can get these ingredients elsewhere. I'm like, yeah, you could.
Well, it's kind of funny because I'm known as the queen of biohacking, and I was even on the Biohack Yourself film. And when I go around to different retreats, I have all of this equipment to help people walk again, talk again. But there's one practice that I have. And after my mom passed away and I was a yoga instructor, I used to do certain breathwork practices to heal my soul. And I started making an oil, which is pure, it's organic. It doesn't matter the brand or what it's from. This is about you today, the root brands, but just talking about that special ingredient of love. I have two common oils that I see in many companies. They're pure. I mix them together. That's not the first time it's done, but everywhere I've gone, I'm known as the oil breathwork lady. And I started to laugh because I said, well, I also make people walk again, talk again. I help bridge plant medicine and modern medicine. I reverse colostomy bag. Like, there's so many things I've done. But to be known for this, and I tell many companies, no matter how much money you save people, it's the feeling. And when we do this thing and we do the breathwork, people are like, wow, what's in this oil?
It's the intention, it's the resonance.
It's the vibration.
Yes.
And that's, again, with the coffee. And when I went to Costa Rica in a blue zone for the first time, I didn't realize when I got back to Florida, which is where I'm from. I live in Tampa, but I'm Floridian born and raised. So all I know is this environment. The first time I was in a blue zone, I come back, I started coughing.
Yeah.
I have a bioscanner. I scanned myself. It said laryngitis, rhinitis, sinusitis, all of these things because of all the pollutants. Yeah. And I'm like, everybody has that.
Well, we have one of our customers who's just come to America the first time a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Grew up in the UK. He's been living in Thailand for about the last year. So he's raw, vegan, fruitarian. Mm-hmm. So he's been over in Thailand, loving it, and met his soon-to-be wife through our community, and she's in Dallas. So he came here, and they went to the clean vegan restaurant. He got sick.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, I can't eat this stuff. And it's the hard part to understand of our environment, and really the United States is so toxic, is so polluted in every aspect, that once you leave this environment and you end up in Europe, you end up in South America, you end up
it's mind-blowing. It's totally different.
And you eat the same food. Like, we were in Italy a couple months ago on the coast of Italy, and we're at our hotel ordering meals, and I'm like, oh, you know what? Don't want to eat a lot of pasta. Don't want to eat pizza, because I don't need the carbs. And I'm like, this is what's here. I'll have a bolognese. And the food is so outstanding, and you look at everybody else around there, they're just eating pasta, they're eating pizza constantly, and they're lean.
Yeah.
And they're like, are these women anorexic? And they're like, nope, they're just what we're made to be.
I love it when women around here always tell me, you're so skinny. I go, I'm actually strong and healthy.
Yeah, it's like, no, this is where we're like made you look like. Right?
I'm like, my mom called it sinewy, rest in peace.
Sinewy,
but, you know, sinewy. She's like, you're strong, but you're tiny. Some people would call me an heiress. I don't need to eat all these big meals and snack all day, you know, because I think.
And that's, it's the interesting part of becoming Rootarian, you know, over the last few months as we introduced our last two pieces to the puzzle of understanding that if you know the food supply is toxic, if you know the environment is toxic, and you know the food supply is depleted, right? It's the one thing that we hear people talk about constantly of, oh, you can't get what you need in your diet anymore, so you have to supplement.
I think I did a study where it's like an organic apple 80 years ago.
Yep.
Whatever is the nutrition, it's literally 80-90% depleted, like not 10%, like 90%, because the minerals overused, the toxins. So I even talked to some people, do I even grow my own vegetables anymore? It's like I need a greenhouse that protects from these environments.
But what if you understand from a biohacking perspective and from a bioscience engineering component that if you have a nano-biotechnologist that understands this and has worked in quantum physics and is a literal bioscience engineer, you know, by experience, by training, by education, that has created the series of components that you can live on and thrive on that shifts. Because the hard part for people to understand is that there's a break and a disconnect between nutrient content and caloric content.
Yes.
Right? You don't need calories to get nutrients. Right? So if you have strategically designed formulas, because there's no golden gun, there's no silver bullet, there's no one thing that you can do that's going to solve
and the
every component.
Bioavailability. Are we absorbing?
And you can stack. We know the importance of stacking. We know the conversations that go around microdosing.
Yes.
But they're only applied in specific areas, right? It's like, oh well, you know, we do microdosing of mushrooms and we do microdosing of this, and like, yeah, but if you understand that everything is frequency based,
yes,
right? But it's also physical. So you can't just say, oh, we're just going to play with frequencies, because we are physical, we are spiritual, we're emotional, we're psychological, we're all these things simultaneously. You have to incorporate mechanisms that take all of those into account. That's biohacking. That's how you start playing with bioscience engineering. That when you start building all of those components, and the key in this is we understand from pharmacology and pharmacogenetics that if we look at pharmaceuticals, that the use of multiple pharmaceuticals has a dramatic impact on our biology, and that's why we have pharmacogenetics, right? And doctors have a genetic panel. They don't use it because they don't know how to interpret it, even though it's red, green, and yellow. This is not hard.
Yeah.
They've never been taught this in school, and they can't figure it out. But if you're on multiple medications, the drug-to-drug interaction of these things can kill you, and it can cause all of these different problems.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when I saw Gary Brecka, you know, come on the scene, and Dana White's like, oh my God, Gary changed my life. He's the greatest guy I've ever met. I'm like, dude, you were on 27 different meds. The smartest thing anyone could do is say, stop that.
Stop your meds.
That doesn't make you a savant. That just makes you go, yeah, you're killing yourself.
Well, part of my process in getting the Queen of Biohacking badge is reversed. I was hospitalized 9 months. I had to replace all my teeth. I was intubated. I had a colostomy.
From what?
Malnourished. I was intubated and kind of neglected in the hospital. And over the span of time was 9 months. So I had pressure ulcers. I
basically got to be born again.
100%. Literally 100%. That inner voice. But because
you went
I have
Matrix.
Totally. I wished upon nobody the type of training. And right when I got out, you know, again, my mom died. I talk about this tomorrow. It's like the trauma, the pain to purpose story. But where were we there? We were talking about all of the pillars. But when I was hospitalized and I got out, it's like someone will show you their product and say, look at this wound healing. You're going to have wound healing no matter what, right? From this point to 6 weeks, your skin is having a turnover. So no matter what product you're using, you're going to have a before and after picture. And I write columns for the Biohackers magazine, which is, I'm reading ethics and all of this in the conferences, the biohacking community, because you made a product. But just like my clinic and being Queen of Biohacking, I've been approached by so many companies. You want to relabel this medicine and make it the Queen's coffee, right? And I'm like, absolutely effing not. Let's just stick with the masters,
it's like,
right?
know what you know.
Yeah, let's
stay in your lane.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm already the Cheesecake Factory of healing, body work, physical therapy, helping people walk and talk again.
Did you go over that when you were talking to Ginger Keanu?
I don't think so.
With Patrick, when you're talking to Patrick about this stuff, he actually used to be a general manager at Cheesecake Factory. So
I did
long
not.
ago when he was
I got a text.
You're in Miami.
I got a text.
Yeah,
That's
so
funny. I'm gonna text you, Patrick.
It's like, yo, I was at the Cheesecake Factory in Miami, and we were talking about Cheesecake Factory in health and wellness, and it's like, I hear that you're an expert in this.
That's hilarious, because people look at my menu, they're like, you're the Cheesecake Factory of healing, and having all of these forms. And it is because it's important to have all the pillars, the mind, the body, the spirit. If I'm fixing just the body with dry needling or electrical stimulation workouts or whatever fancy tools you have, if you're not working the brain, which is how I met Dr. Porter and became a faculty with Brain Tap, because I had to pull myself out of depression, and I don't want to say suicidal ideation, but I was just not attached to the physical body after all of the pain. And
well, you can hit on the aspect of it, because the psychological component of, if your body's in complete dysbiosis, the soul in your spirit is like, look, I don't want to be here.
No, I disconnected for so long.
Your spirit doesn't want to be in that kind of toxic environment.
No.
So you are going to have those conversations.
If it wasn't for my son, who I watched, because I disconnected from my body. Also, I was pregnant and I didn't eat for 9 months. I was on TPN. And if I didn't have a biomedical science degree, and then physics and all of this, we don't know why we do what we do and when we're going to use what we use. But when I was there, I was reading my own imaging. Even when I was intubated and they kept giving me Dilaudid and morphine and Benadryl, I ended up pulling out the IV. And the long story short of that all is when I got out and I reversed the colostomy bag, and I replaced my teeth, and I got extensions for my hair. Eventually my hair grew, and my dental health, and all of my health got on board. For me, it was plant medicine, yoga, meditation, grounding, being barefoot in the sun, love, and those vibrations. I have a before and after picture. That's before I was in the biohacking world. But after a year being in the biohacking world, I went from amazing, healthy to optimize to queen of biohacking, because it's like we already pull ourselves out, but when you support yourself with good frequency community,
and then things start compounding, and I think that's the long-term aspect of when we look at the true components of bioscience engineering, that we are a biological computer, and this amazing quantum mechanism, that when you get in line and start doing these key pieces, that just like your phone or your computer, it's constantly updating.
Yes.
Right. The hardware, and the framework is all the same for everyone.
Yes.
Right.
Right.
So I'm
thinking the software, the hardware. How to.
But then it's the software component, your apps, right, that make us the unique aspect. And if you're doing the right things, and there's a few different things of those to do, and putting those pieces together, that you're constantly going to be improving. It's not, I do something for a little bit and then I plateaued, and it's like, oh, this is where I'm at. No, it's much like, taking a masterpiece that's been up in an attic for 100 years, and the process of cleaning it, and then having someone really get into the fine details to restore it, and then eventually you start touching it up. And then eventually it's going to go in a case, and then it's going to be on a wall somewhere, and then you're going to put light on it, and you begin to see, oh wow, this is what this was made to become. And then you get to appreciate it. But that process is not something that takes a couple weeks. It's not something that takes a couple months, even a couple years. It's the continual process of upgrading. Totally. And that's the beauty of the environment of where we sit now, of getting into it.
Yeah, I think to just circle all of that together, I have a saying on my wall. It says, live every day as if it were your last, but treat your body and mind as if you'll live forever, right? Because it's never like, oh, the destination is over. You want a constant upgrade and have all of those pillars of health all communicating, and supporting you.
Every day is a gift.
Right? And the time is now.
The adage of many things is like, that's why they call it the present, because it's a gift. And when you're at a point of, you could say, desperation, or when somebody's at their low point, and they question that process. I live by 3 principles because to me it's what Christ-like has been taught to me, which is WTH: walk, teach, heal. And through that, the walk aspect is really our foundation. But you don't know your path, you don't know your journey until you continue to walk. So when you're in the middle of the swamp, basically, and it's nice to be in the swamp here in Florida, right? And you don't know why you're there. You've got all this stuff around you, this chaos is going on. You're questioning why, and you continue your path. Eventually, you get to pause and you look back and you go, okay, yeah, now I know why. And then when you realize that we're each this imperfect piece to this perfect puzzle, and it's only as each of us works to become our best self that then we will find our connectivity with those that we're made to connect to, and only through that process and other people doing the same thing that the whole collage is going to come together, because we've got 8.5 billion puzzle pieces.
Totally.
Right? So it's a matter of making sure that we find where we fit. We don't have to fit with everybody. Yeah. And that's the interesting part.
I love that. I love what you're saying, and we could probably close on that, because how was it? We should go like this. We're like, the imperfect piece, the imperfect piece in the perfect puzzle. When we are all together as one. Now we dance.
Is this where I get to break out the white guy overbite?
Yeah, do it. Okay, and then I'll do the look back at it.
Yeah, you can.
You gotta do the white boy overbite. I'll do the look back. All right, see you guys. Thank you for joining me.
Unlock your full potential at the Biohackers World Conference and Expo in Los Angeles on March 29th and 30th. Connect with leaders in health optimization, learn the secrets to longevity, boost your performance, and dive into the latest biohacking and wellness innovations. Don't miss out. Tickets are going fast.